great to be back after being sick for 3 weeks. It's great to be back in the saddle again, and what a great time to be back at it. Again, if you want to get at us, you can hit me up on Twitter at NotBlame21 if you want to get at us and you don't do Twitter. StraightShootingST@gmail.com. That's StraightShootingST@gmail.com. Now let's get right into it. We're going to start with Sunday's matchup, Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers, and it all came down to this.
This to send the Packers into the NFC Championship game. It is good! The Packers are moving on! Aaron Rodgers has done it again! And Mason Crosby, a hero for Green Bay.
And that's what it came down to, ladies and gentlemen. A field goal. A field goal at the end of regulation that would send the Packers to the NFC Championship game, winning that game 34-31 over the Dallas Cowboys. And there's a lot of talk of why the Cowboys lost this game. I've heard it all. Coaching, play calling, bad calls, no calls. I've seen there was no holding calls called against us during this game. Let's get it down to the facts, though. First and foremost, I've said this before. I said this before the last game of the season. See, this is what happens when you have a young football team and you decide that you're going to play them a series, a quarter, because you want to rest them. You know, the old ball coach, the old coach, crazy coach. You play to win the game. You're already getting a bye week. I understand. It's a game that doesn't really matter to you. You don't want to get caught up in a meaningless game and get someone hurt, but that's football. Continuity and rhythm is important. I personally felt that the first round bye was going to hurt the Cowboys. Kind of hurts their rhythm. And we know how this team, run by Jerry Jones, has the tendency over the years to feel like that they've accomplished something when they have yet to accomplish anything. Now, granted, they had a great season. 13-3. They go in. I mean, what more can you say? But you have to be prepared. You're at home. You fought for this first round bye for a reason. Not only to get healthy, but to get them in your home stadium on your turf and come out and be prepared. And, hey, after the first drive where they settled for 3, they didn't do much of nothing offensively. I can go back to several points early in that game. I mean, you're running it. You're passing the ball on the 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. That's not your game. Ezekiel Elliott running the ball very effectively, as he has been all season long. Ezekiel Elliott, 22 carries, 125. Longest rush was a 22-yard run. That's not a guy who's not running very well, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, when you look at the other side of the ball, when you look at the Green Bay Packers and what they did, they rushed for a net of 87 yards total. Another problem, and the biggest problem of them all. See, fans have had the misconception of how great or well this defense is. Now, I'll give Rob Marinelli his credit. With very little talent, he has managed to get top-notch production out of very little. With that being said, ball control for the Dallas Cowboys was and has been the key for the 16 games that they have been in the regular season. Hence the 13-3. Hence the top 5 ranking as a defense. See, when you're only spending about 15 to 20 minutes on the field, it doesn't give much time for your defense to be exposed. And 9 times out of 10 in most games, the Dallas Cowboys were leading ahead and guys were playing from behind. And what does that mean when you're playing from behind? That means you can't run the ball. You're not going to run it nearly as much. And Dallas defense knows exactly what you're going to be doing, and that's passing ball. So they're teeing off. They were not able to get to Aaron Rodgers as much as they had been all season long. They were on the field for 29 minutes and 46 seconds. It's a lot. It's a lot. Now, given that statistic, they were in a position at the end to win this thing. You look at the third down conversions defensively, both teams were 6 of 11 on third downs. It's pretty pedestrian considering. It's not great. Obviously, the teams didn't get to a lot of third downs. But it's even. The huge problem, though, was some untimely penalties for the Cowboys. That kept some drives alive for the Green Bay Packers, and it just didn't look prepared. And when you get behind a team that has been there, done that, led by Aaron Rodgers, you're going to find yourself in this predicament. And you know what? They found themselves in that predicament, and they still came back and tied the game late with a Dan Bailey field goal. I mean, how clutch is that guy? But I was sitting and watching the game with a few Green Bay fans, and I'm thinking to myself, is this a case of Dallas going to be Romo'd by their own thing that they like to do? Because, there's a lot of times where, like the Giants, for instance, scoring the Cowboys, leaving like 50 seconds on the clock, and the next thing you know, Romo marches right down the field to set it up either for a touchdown or a Dan Bailey field goal to seal it late. And after that sack, it looked dismal. Like, there's no way they get in field goal range now, right? And he's not close enough for another one of those miracle Hail Marys, right? But no, a tight end, Cook, catches the ball on the sideline. Like Michael Jackson catches it on the sideline. Absolutely amazing. And they go through twice. Now, both times I thought the field goal probably wasn't good. On the first one, I was a little bit more confident. The second time, it looked bad. And not only did it look bad, it looked like it was a sheer miss, like it was going to hook left. And it was like a wind out of nowhere in a dome for of all places. That thing kicks back in right. Usually that doesn't kick back in right unless you got some kind of outside source, a wind, a crosswind somewhere blowing that thing back in. They're inside a dome and it's closed. How did it even do that? Have no idea. And that thing goes through the last seconds, 34-31. I will say this, though. Cowboys fans need to be pretty excited about where their team is. Pretty excited. Future's bright. Lots of offensive pieces. They just have to get better on defense. Some things that I noticed on defense, Claiborne did not play up to the potential that he had been playing all season long. And I know he got drilled on a lot of shows today, but he really did not show up. But he really has improved. When they brought the rookies in, that changed the game. That changed the game a lot. That tightened up a lot of things on the outside. Brown did a fairly decent job covering. And they were very fortunate. I mean, it looked dismal early for the Cowboys. And to be in it to the last second was absolutely incredible. And I would have to say the best game of the weekend as far as playoffs go. Next, we'll go ahead and talk about this Kansas City Chiefs and Pittsburgh Steelers. My lunch pail kids, one of my picks to be in the Super Bowl, has fallen by the wayside. And my concerns for the Kansas City Chiefs were this: they play well defensively. Their offense, though, is quite anemic at times. They can come out, hit you, and throw up 21 quick points and then go hibernate for the second half. And in the last seconds of this game, a potentially tying 2-point conversion gets called back for a holding penalty. And this is what my man Travis Kelce had to say about that particular call. Shouldn't even be able to work at Foot Locker. All right, all right, all right. Well, I got some words for you, Travis. First off, you had 3 opportunities. And the one that I will bring out is the pass right down the middle that hit you in the wrong spot in the hands. And you dropped it. You know, I had my mother text me and she said, "You can't win having Butterfingers." And you had Crisco on your hands on several key occasions, letting down your quarterback, Alex Smith, your teammate, number 72. Look, that call's a judgment call. 9 times out of 10 in a playoff game, they're probably not going to make that call. But you got to give the referee, and I very rarely say this, but you got to give the ref some credit. He hooks him. James Harris was low. He hooks him. And James Harrison comes in low like that all the time. The dude is a low center of gravity when he comes around that corner, and he kind of caught him in an awkward position. He got hooked. He fell to the ground. Could it have gone either way? A no call? Sure. Because you could say Harrison probably fell on the ground on his own to generate the call because he could no longer get around the corner. Fair enough. But it was called. Was it a wrong call? Absolutely not. It wasn't a bad call at all. But for Kelce to come out and say what he said, hey, it don't even have to be in the referee's hands if you actually catch the ball. You had 3 big opportunities in this game to change the narrative of this game, to not allow this to be a 16-18 ball game, to get 20 points. If they got 21 points, we're not even talking about this. Steelers were kicking field goals. 6 to be exact to win this game. And he's coming down on the referee for making a legitimate call that is a judgment call I will say that, but is it a bad call? No, it is not. If you don't want the refs to be involved, then catch the dang ball. That's all I'm going to say. This is typical Kansas City Chiefs fashion. Come out, do all you do all year, come in here and then not show up in the biggest game and then come around and have all the guns pointing at everyone else as if it's their fault that you lost this game. No, this comes down to you guys not doing enough to get the job done when you had ample of opportunities to get the job done and get the ball in the end zone. You, Sir Kelce, had several opportunities to change the dynamic of this game, and you blew it because you had Crisco on the hands. You want to do something? Catch the ball better. Don't blame the refs for your mistakes. Overall, a great game, and now that they are out of the picture, I have to say, and we're going to talk about this more during this week, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are my pick to make it to the Super Bowl. And yes, I am picking them over the New England Patriots. And we'll talk about that more as this week goes on, breaking this game down, this AFC Championship game down, and talking about why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers can actually beat the Patriots and why the Patriots are not the Patriots of old. They're not that scary. Let's get back into the NFC, and one of my favorite games of the weekend started out pretty close. It was a 19-10 ball game there in the Georgia Dome. The Georgia Dome is getting one more game. My pick for the Super Bowl to get into the Super Bowl as well. The Atlanta Falcons take it to the Seattle Seahawks. And I know a lot of people are pretty excited about the fact that the Falcons not only beat them, but beat them handily, and for various reasons. We got guys like Richard Sherman, guys on the defensive side of the football, Cam Chancellor, that most will say are crybabies. When bad things happen to them, they don't take it like a man. They cry and make excuses. Well, let's just say the Atlanta defense, and we talked about this earlier in the season. I wrote an article on sportsjourney.com about this, and you can catch my work and all of my written work there about this Atlanta Falcons defense and how they're very talented, although very young. And at the time, they really weren't playing up to their potential, not getting a lot of pass rush, really exposing the secondary and their coverage abilities as well. And here we are late in the season, and as it got later in the season, the last 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season, this defense was starting to come on. And they showed it. They showed it against the Seattle Seahawks in the Georgia Dome. They let them have it. They got 2 interceptions. And how can Matt Ryan not be talked about as NFL MVP here? I mean, seriously. This guy has put up numbers, and I know. I know about Aaron Rodgers, and we see Aaron Rodgers do this constantly, and that's with a slow start. But you know what? Matt Ryan had a slow start too. And finally, Matty Ice is being Matty Ice, putting teams away, making great throws, and this running game to couple with it has just absolutely put this team over the top. I thought they picked them apart on defense. And where was Richard Sherman? Oh, mouth almighty. Where was he at? Julio Jones, those guys were eating them up. You got Coleman rushing for 57 yards, Freeman for 45 yards. You would have thought they rushed for more than that, the way that they were running all over that defense. and Matty Ice just hitting several different receivers. And I tell you, a guy who really stepped up and made some key plays was Toilolo. Who would have ever thought that guy would make? He made 2 big catches in that game. 2 big catches in that game. Gabriel making plays, Sanu making plays. This team is hot, and they're getting hot at the right time. You gotta I'm a big critical person of Kyle Shanahan, and you have to like what Kyle Shanahan is doing right now. This team is ready to go. They're ready to go. And he's calling excellent plays, getting the team in the right position, making the right calls at the right time, and the execution is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Offensive line protected Matty Ice. They are getting it done. Now they get a rematch of the Green Bay Packers, a team they beat at home, came down to the wire. It's a game that I was at, and what a game it was. And here we are again in the Georgia Dome, a rematch. It's going to be a great game. Going to talk about that too as well. And I really think that the Atlanta Falcons have an opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to tell you, I think they can beat the Green Bay Packers. And I really think that they could beat them just as the Cowboys, as they beat the Cowboys, or were beating the Cowboys early. But there will be no comeback. And we'll talk about that later in the week as well. But man, what a football Sunday. What a football Saturday. Exciting stuff. And we know Houston, New England. Look, Houston had an opportunity early in that game. And then Brock Osweiler realized that he was Brock Osweiler. And the Houston Texan offense realized they were Houston. Because early in that game, when they went in the half, it was close. You're talking about a 17-10 ball game. And second half comes out, Patriots score a touchdown, and they couldn't muster up any points in the second half, and then the wheels fall off. You can't leave that defense out there. It's really unfortunate. You look at all the injuries that the Houston Texans defense had all season long, and then you look at what they were able to do late in the season, keeping their team in games. And granted, I said this over and over and over again. Carr is the quarterback, and Houston doesn't even make it this far. Okay? But if Houston had a quarterback, they would have beat the Patriots. And I've heard Patriots fans tell me it was a bad game and blah, 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 but you're not what you used to be. Because they were carving that secondary up early, hitting plays down the middle of the field. Defense was getting after Brady, making him make mistakes. Doesn't make him often, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And I think Pittsburgh is going to bring something to the table because they have the offensive weapons to do so. You're not going to see them kick 6 field goals in this game. They can't. They kick 6 field goals in this game and they get blowed out. It's going to be 34-18. But I don't see Pittsburgh repeating that. They're going to have something to prove. They always play with a chip on their shoulder. They know what's at stake. Tomlin knows what's at stake, and I think if you caught a little bit of that interview that Antonio Brown put his coach out there, exposing his coach like that, supposed to be for the fellas in the locker room, and he exposing his coach like that with a little bit of locker room bulletin board material for the Patriots. You know that they're going to be prepared. So it's going to be a great NFC Championship game, and look forward to it as we get into the last game before the big game, the Super Bowl. And I think the 4 teams left are the 4 teams that should be left. We're going to have a great NFC and AFC Championship game, so we'll talk a little bit more about those games and break them down a little bit more as the week goes on. We'll get into some news about the coaches, what I think about the coaching changes, and all that good stuff. We'll get into that as we get going through the week. But I tell you, it's great to be back. It's great to be back. And as always, we thank you so much for listening to this show. You could be listening to any other show, and you guys take time to listen to me, and it's greatly appreciated. There's going to be some big things in 2017. We're going to keep growing, keep doing, and bringing you great takes on sports. Again, if you want to check out my work, my written work, it's at sportsjourney.com. That's sportsjourney.com. You want to talk to us, you want to talk shop, hit me up on Twitter. If you don't do Twitter, some of you are linked into my Facebook page. Do that. You can talk to me there. If you can't talk to me there, shoot us the email, straightshootingsportstalk@gmail.com. And for all the other social networking sites, it's not Bland21 on everything. So get at us. Love talking shop, and if it's good enough, man, we'll bring it up on the show, man. We love talking sports. We love getting your opinion on things. So I'm in. Well, again, we thank you so much. And this has been another edition of Straight Shooting Sports Talk.